The rain tapped against the window when Helena realized no one would be visiting that day. Her children had their own lives, the neighbors were busy, and the phone remained silent. With quiet tears, she whispered, "My God, I don't want to live like this anymore." The silence seemed to mock her voice, filling every corner of her small apartment. Helena, 58 years old, with grey hair tied in a simple bun and deep, weary eyes, carried in her chest a sense of abandonment that had followed her ever since her children moved to distant cities. Her routine was always the same: prepare coffee, watch Mass on television, look out the window and wait for a phone call that almost never came. That rainy Sunday, the loneliness weighed more than usual. The sound of raindrops against the glass seemed to mark the rhythm of the emptiness in her heart. She sat on the edge of her bed, holding her late mother's rosary, and let the tears fall freely. "Does anyone remember me? Do I matter to anyone?" she asked herself in silence. The weight of loneliness turned even the smallest gestures into burdens. Getting up to cook just for herself, lying down in a bed that was always cold, walking through rooms without hearing another voice. Everything seemed like a cruel reminder that she was alone. But in that moment of despair, something different happened. Helena, tired of fighting against her pain by herself, knelt down beside the bed and said in a low but firm voice, "Lord, I can't carry this loneliness anymore. I give it into your hands." There was no preparation, no rehearsed words, just a cry from her soul. And as soon as she finished that simple sentence, she felt something change within her. The room was the same. The rain hadn't stopped, but a gentle peace filled the space. It was as if someone had sat beside her in silence, holding her hand invisibly. Helena couldn't explain it. There was no vision, no audible voice, but the presence of God was real. So real that her tears stopped and a deep sigh escaped her chest. She realized that for the first time, she wasn't trying to endure the loneliness alone. She had placed the weight on the shoulders of the one who promised to carry our burdens. The prayer didn't bring her children back home. It didn't fill her living room with unexpected visits, but it changed something far more important. It changed her heart. The emptiness, once cold, became space for dialogue with God, a space to give thanks, to ask for strength, to share secrets. In the days that followed, her routine didn't turn into a celebration. The phone still rang rarely, and the mail still brought only bills. But within Helena, a new habit was born. Each time the silence tried to overwhelm her, she repeated the same prayer: "Lord, I give my loneliness to you." She discovered that loneliness feels different when it is no longer carried alone. It became a moment of prayer, an opportunity to reflect, a chance to cultivate hope. The absence of people was no longer total absence, because God was present. Over time, small changes began to appear. Helena started smiling more at her neighbors, and one of them began bringing her fruit whenever possible. A distant friend reappeared through occasional phone calls, and even her children, noticing her serenity, began to call more often. But the greatest transformation wasn't the outside, it was inside. The heart that once cried in silence now prayed with confidence. Loneliness didn't completely disappear, but it stopped being an enemy. It became sacred space where God spoke through the silence, and Helena understood something that took her a lifetime to learn. The presence of God doesn't replace human love, but it gives strength to endure the emptiness until human love returns. She discovered that no loneliness can overcome a heart surrendered to the Creator, because those who trust in God are never truly alone. And today, as she tells her story, she leaves a question in the air. How many times do we carry loneliness in silence when we could simply hand it over to God?